What's the good word, y'all? Welcome to the New York Jets Syndicate channel. It's your boy DKB here, and I wanted to talk about Corey Davis and kind of weapons as a whole for this New York Jets roster. Because when we look back on it, between the rumors and the sources and some of the moves that have been made, everything has spoken to the fact that the New York Jets expect Aaron Rodgers to be in the building, and based on that, they want to surround him with as many weapons as possible. And, keep in mind, we're not just talking about when the trade officially gets confirmed. We're talking about when training camp officially kicks off towards the end of May. We want him to be able to come in and kind of hit the ground running with as many tools as possible. So you think about Garrett Wilson, him just naturally taking another step within this system. Even though we're running a new installation, it's still going to be a lot of the same concept wise, so there shouldn't be a whole lot of struggle there. But you're also talking about the fact that Nathaniel Hackett's a great teacher. You bring in Zach Azzanni, who's been an awesome mentor in that Denver Broncos wide receiver room. You feel better about it. You take a look at Corey Davis. He was coming in expecting to be the number one wide receiver, and at least at the time we kind of paid him like that. But it really was kind of a buy low, sell high type situation for us. And at least according to the reports, it's not a foregone conclusion that he's going to actually be gone from this roster anymore. I mean, even Connor Hughes mentioned recently that he doesn't see Corey Davis being involved in the Aaron Rodgers trade, which is what a lot of people were expecting when Corey Davis still hasn't been cut, right? We can save $10.5 million in cap space by releasing or trading him. It still hasn't gotten done. And a lot of the issues around Corey Davis, people are going to point to, are going to be essentially the injuries. He hasn't been able to really stay on the field. He's missed 12 games since he signed with us 2 years ago. And then, of course, the hands. There's been a wide variety of catches where, it's kind of been Butterfingers moments, but he's also been one of the most clutch players in our wide receiver room in terms of being able to snag some of those difficult throws and, balls being placed in areas where they really shouldn't. And I think and I want to say it was actually the Broncos game, matter of fact, one of the final series we needed to kind of push the ball down the field. And he was able to go out there and secure a ball that was basically on the floor for us. So there's going to be some up and down with Corey Davis for sure. But keeping him, you take a look at this wide receiver room now, Garrett Wilson, Corey Davis, Mecole Hardman. You're looking at Allen Lazard in the building now, which essentially will be the replacement for Corey Davis when he leaves in a year if we don't actually move on from him. And then you're talking about Denzel Mims, at the bottom. You still like a guy like Irvin Charles that's in the building, still potential to add some weapons to develop in this draft, or at least as undrafted free agents. Corey Davis no longer has to be that guy. In the realistic world, Corey Davis still is better to me than Allen Lazard, but you're not looking at him as potentially your number 3 or number 4 wide receiver, depending on how quick Mecole Hardman can make a strong impression in this wide receiver room. And I don't think it's all that crazy. So you bring him in, he'll contribute in the same fashion, but he's also going to be facing number 3 or number 4 cornerbacks for the most part, which means he's going to go out there and have a lot of great looks and opportunities. And for a guy that was averaging almost 20 to 22 yards per catch for a majority of that season there for a bit, this looks like a prime opportunity for him to have, I won't call it an outbreak, but he definitely can have a lot of boom or bust games depending on how things go. So I don't mind him staying. $10.5 million in the grand scheme of things with what we've seen over the last 2 years was how some of these contracts have played out. It looks like a good value deal for the New York Jets still 3 years later. If we can find an opportunity to get rid of him at any point in time, we still are going to be able to save that $10.5 million. So I would say he should still kind of be walking on pins and needles up until the point that the regular season actually kicks off. But let's say Garrett Wilson still proves to be a number 1. Mecole Hardman shows those explosive traits that make us feel good about inserting him in as a slot receiver. Allen Lazard can become the new number 2 on this wide receiver depth chart. You bump up Denzel Mims, for example, or maybe Irvin Charles shows that he's ready for a role in this offense. And suddenly you're talking about a wide receiver room that doesn't necessarily need to rely on Corey Davis and what he's going to bring, especially considering the health hasn't been there in full. A lot of that being kind of soft tissue injuries, which you don't have a ton of control over. But still, it's an interesting situation for the New York Jets. But again, if you take a macro look and not focus just in on a wide receiver room in and of itself, I've mentioned this before, Aaron Rodgers has targeted his running backs pretty significant amount. I want to say the number was like on 60% of his throws. That was in part due to a lack of weapons in Green Bay, of course, but you have to imagine that that's definitely a staple of his game. So the running backs are going to be involved. The tight ends, are going to be a big part of what Aaron Rodgers is looking to do with this offense. And so, suddenly Corey Davis, it's not so high on the totem pole. Right now, he's probably looking at being the 5th or 6th best option if he truly is a number 3 or number 4 on the depth chart for us in terms of, volume of passes coming his way. So let me know what your guys' thoughts are. Where do you stand on the spectrum? Do you want to just save the money and cut Corey Davis or trade him? Or do you keep him and say, yeah, let's try to stack the roster and make sure we can prepare ourselves for anything, injuries, people that aren't necessarily ready to, ball out in this offense, etc. And I'll catch you guys again. Peace.